in this episode of Idea City.
So we take a few cells, a few million cells, through a harmless biopsy from the animal. We grow those cells up in the laboratory, and then finally we take this multi-layered skin and tan it. And then we arrive at leather.
Not that I'm just selfish about this, but I want to ask our next speaker, Gabor Forgacs, come out here and tell me, how long will it be until you can print me a spare part?
That depends what spare part you're thinking about. When we enthusiastically chew on our steak or proudly wear our leather jacket, we very seldom think about the place of their common origin, and that is the slaughterhouse. Now, you wonder why I'm the last speaker before lunch.
That's what it looks like.
This is usually a remote, guarded, hidden facility, not too happy facility, neither for the animals that are there, nor for the people who work there. So imagine a world where leather and meat could be made without killing a single animal and doing no harm to the environment. Did you know that today on this planet, we, the 7 billion people, share this planet with 60 billion animals? And those numbers by 2050, respectively, are going to be 9 billion and 100 billion. What we forget in this process is that the animals that live on the same planet as we, they are not only sources of our dairy products, meat, and leather goods, but they are the consumers of the same resources what we use. Land, water, they are contributing to greenhouse gas emission to a large extent. Something is wrong. This cannot go on forever. We have to do something about it. So a few years ago, we developed a technology to print three-dimensional, functional, living structures, such as tissues and organs, and we just implanted them into animals, and they are now also ready to be implanted into human beings. And that technology, I will hopefully convince you, that can be also applied to making meat and leather. The technology that I was alluded to, this three-dimensional printing or other bioassembly method, are really in the realm of tissue engineering.
Get the latest Idealist news, presenter information, and watch streaming video at ideacityonline.com.
So we're going to go here for a ride, and I'll tell you how we are making genuine leather, really genuine leather. So the technology that I was alluded to, this three-dimensional printing or other bioassembly method, are really in the realm of tissue engineering, or more generally, biofabrication. New tissues, new organs have been built, such as windpipes, bone, skin, and many others. Well, here's a human ear. Across the world, in many, many laboratories. and implanted into recipients, helping to improve on the quality of life of many, many, many patients. So why not use this ability of ours to make meats, build meats, and leather? After all, those are tissues. And so that's what we embarked on a few years ago when we said, okay, if we can build medical-grade tissues, we should be able to build leather and meat. Those are tissues as well, post-mortem tissues, but they start out, obviously, as living tissues. So how do we do it? So we take a few cells, a few million cells, through a harmless biopsy from the animal. We grow those cells up in the laboratory or in a plant to the necessary desired numbers. And during this process, when those cells are growing and multiplying, they are secreting a material that is one of the most important components of skin and the signature component of leather. And that's the protein collagen. And once we have sufficient collagen, the cells secreted this collagen, we take this collagen, we make them into sheets, we stack the sheets on top of each other into thicker sheets, we couple the adjacent sheets, and then finally we take this multi-layered skin and tan it. And then we arrive at leather. Now, this process has several distinguishing features that really distinguish it from the traditional way of making leather. First of all, after the biopsy, the animal is a happy camper, lives a happy life. In fact, we can take the same animal later and use it for sourcing cells again. So we need fewer animals, and we need much less resources. So we already save a lot there. Importantly, all this process can be carried out under the same roof in one facility, in an environment which is transparent, clean. Imagine you tour such a facility. You see every step of the biofabrication process, from the moment the cells are put into the appropriate environment and then growing up. This could be fantastically educational. And this is something you would never be able to do in an abattoir. There are other biofabrication processes that we are very familiar with that are more transparent. So for example, beer brewing. You go to a pub today and you can see really how the beer is made. So, or yogurt making, it's another thing. It's also a biofabrication process, old biofabrication processes. So those big tanks here in this brewery are used for fermentation. It's a bioprocess. So imagine those tanks, instead of being used for brewing beer, brewing cells, multiplying cells. It's a clean facility. It would be a pleasure to work there. So this is genuine leather, fresh from the laboratory. And this leather has many distinct properties that industrial leather actually doesn't.
Great ideas are meant to be shared. Join the discussion on Facebook.
Let me show you a few examples of what we have been able to make. So this is genuine leather, fresh from the laboratory. And this leather has many distinct properties that industrial leather actually doesn't. So first of all, this is unblemished. This is uniform. In contrast, the leather that we obtain from the skin of an animal often is damaged. The skin of the animal itself, the hide, is damaged. It's damaged because the animal collides with barbed wires, because of insect bites, or because of abuse. We can make this leather into anything we want. We can make it in various shapes. The hide of an animal has irregular shape, and because of the irregular shape and the inhomogeneities, the different parts of that hide have different physical properties. That makes certain applications very cumbersome. We don't have that problem. We make this leather just in the quantity that we need and just for what we want to make. So for example, this bracelet. This bracelet was made from that leather that I showed you on the previous slide. Because of this leather being homogeneous, we don't need, for example, to use the same toxic tanning processes that industrial leather production and industrial leather manufacturing needs to use. So we're again polluting much less the environment. It just happens that I have a few samples in my hand, and I can show it to you if technology allows. So this is a very thin leather, and this is a thicker leather. This is a transparent leather. This is more opaque. And depending on how many layers of those collagens we put together, we can make leather to our specifications, depending on what the customer wants. Now, I also should say that when we take the biopsy from the animal, that animal can be a cow, that animal can be a calf, or any bovine-like animal, but it could be a pig, it could be an elephant. That depends on what you want. Finally, let me show you something that really the industrial leather production is not capable of doing. Well, this is actually a video that will show you maybe a feel for what kind of material this is. And I'll just let you enjoy the video for a moment. Imagine a blouse or a shirt made from this material. This is silk-like, except that it has leather-like qualities. As I said, leather is fundamentally made of collagen. Now, there are many types of collagen, and they come in our body in various mixtures. And the properties of leather depend on the type of collagen and on the mixture of various collagens. So the reason why calf leather is much softer than that from an adult animal is precisely because the composition of this collagenous material in a calf, in the young animal, is different from that in the adult. And the specialized cells that in the skin make the collagen are not necessarily the best sources of collagen. But the industry doesn't have access to anything else because they slaughter the animals and then they just take the skin of the animal, and that's what they end up with. That's their source. Now, we, on the other hand, we can source any kind of cells that make massive quantities of collagen. And in fact, there are cells that make better collagen and in a more optimal composition, even for leather production. So those are the kinds of things that we can do. So we can mimic nature, but we can also go beyond nature and hopefully make producing this leather that humanity has been enjoying for many, many hundreds of years in a different way. Today, we're able to print, as I said, blood vessels, nerve grafts, all kinds of tissues. And recently, the first company that we formed around those ideas, in the name of Organovo, was able to come up with a liver construct that is made from your own cells.
Get the latest Idea City news instantly. Follow us on Twitter.
mostly talked about leather, but we are able to make meat as well. Moreover, as I mentioned, the technology that we came up with a few years ago, bioprinting, and here I have to spend a few seconds on explaining the difference between printing, 3D printing a plastic object or, say, a blood vessel, which we can do. Those are not the same things. A bioprinter that is able to print living material has to have even more stringent conditions imposed on it than something that prints plastic. And so today, we're able to print, as I said, blood vessels, nerve grafts, all kinds of tissues. And recently, the first company that we formed around those ideas, in the name of Organovo, was able to come up with a liver construct that is made from your own cells, so from the patient's own cell, and that construct can be used to test drugs. So we're moving to the optimally patient-tailored drug development. That's where this technology is going today. But at some point, I hope we will be able to print organs. Well, it's going to happen a little bit later, so just don't drink that much so that your liver is okay, or don't smoke that much so that your lung is okay, but it will come. And so the question is, how long do we want to live? We will be able to replace your body parts. Well, I leave this to you. Let me just come back to biofabricating animal products. So I think that hopefully I managed to convince you that we can make leather without killing the animals. So we are ushering in, I think, today a biofabrication process to make animal products in an entirely new way. It's a new era. And I think this is perhaps an inescapable future of mankind. We can't live with slaughtering the animals all the time. So hopefully this is a way that is different from present-day methods of making leather. It is a method, it is an approach that is environmentally friendly and responsible, scalable, and ultimately more humane. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabor. That's terrific.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. How old is your company?
Which one? Organovo was formed in 2007. It's a public company by now. Mm-hmm. Modern Meadow, the second one that is making animal products, is a young one. Was formed and launched in 2012.
And I know you spend a lot of money in research. Are there any revenues at this point?
Organovo already has revenues, a bet ahead, being a public company. Modern Meadow is a younger company. We're supported by grants, but I have to say, and this is very reassuring for me, for a scientist, actually, I come from theoretical physics, you believe it, that whatever money source we attacked, we got it. So all the grants, and I'm telling you this as a basic scientist, 30 years in academia, you sweat today to get funds for basic research. This one, especially Modern Meadow, so far so good.
I can see that people would be very comfortable with sliding their feet into artificial leather. Probably less comfortable putting artificial meat in their mouth.
I'm sorry that I have to correct you. You said artificial leather. There's nothing artificial.
Real leather.
This is genuine leather. Genuine. It is as genuine as it can be.
How will you describe it when you take it to market, though?
I will describe it as cultured leather.
Cultured
leather.
So as I said, I can see people sliding their feet into cultured shoes, but I don't know. How would you feel about cultured meat? You're going to make $1 billion.
Okay, so since I'm the last speaker, my son, with whom we're doing the second company, gave a talk at TED Global last week in Scotland. Right. And he talked about the meat, and at the end of the talk, Kurt Anderson, who was the narrator, asked the audience, so who would be willing to test this meat. There was one person who said, I am not. Everybody else was ready.
Same here.
I ate this meat. I'm still alive. The problem with the meat is probably slightly different. The regulatory hurdle behind meat is clearly going to be more critical. Now, consumer acceptance of goods also is going to be challenging. It's one thing to carry a leather bag or wear a shoe or a bracelet than ingesting something that you really don't know what it is, even if it is yummy. So those are the problems that we will be facing with the meat. But the technology behind meat and behind leather is very similar. So the strategy is that if we can sell you the leather, hopefully it's going to be easier to sell the meat.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Did we get a picture? That's fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, there it is. Can I see it close up?
Hold it.
Oh, it's really fine.
Yeah, that one is fine. This is rougher.
I think you're right. A blouse made out of that would
Yeah,
be
it
quite
would be
amazing.
fantastic.
Yeah, this has more, and it's got texture.
Texture, yes.
And do your leathers breathe?
Yes, oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
All right, that's swell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Idea City is a place where ideas come face to face to inspire and give us hope. At this time, our planet needs it most. Idea City is a place. Everybody sing. Where ideas